Good evening. This is Talking Sports with Evan, and it is Thursday, April 6th, 2023, in this episode. And thank you so much for watching, tuning in, watching it live, watching it later, listening to the podcast, which will be posted and available on my Substack account pretty soon, shortly after I get done with you here today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and lots to talk about. Last week had Brandon Snide from WTMJ 620 morning sports anchor and producer for Steve Scafidi show on the show, and we talked Milwaukee Brewers and Bucks. And a week ago, for the Bucks, anyways, things did not look that great as they were completely annihilated and embarrassed by the Boston Celtics. But a week later, the Milwaukee Bucks are the one seed in the Eastern Conference, the best record in the NBA. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Bucks and what that means to have that one seed in the NBA playoffs throughout, and why I feel it is a good thing, even though they won the NBA title as a 3 seed. The one seed is much better to have. We also talked about the Brewers, and they lost to the Chicago Cubs a week ago, 4-0. And unfortunately, in that game, a lot of poor play from the past few years for the Brewers uh, was on display again. Couldn't get hits in big situations and whatnot. And oh, what a difference a week makes, because now the Brewers have one of the hottest offenses in baseball, scoring 10, 9, and 7 against the Mets, and scoring 9 on Sunday against the Cubs. The Brewers are now sitting at 5-1, and give my thoughts on the Brewers and where I can see the Brewers potentially going, and why I don't feel we should be concerned about Corbin Burns just yet, even though he has struggled to start this season and a week into the baseball season. And how are those new rules doing? You have the pitch clock, 15 seconds when nobody's on base, 20 seconds when there is a runner on base. How is that looking right now in baseball? Has it been a good thing? Has it been a bad thing? And the average time of a game is down. How far down? I'll get you how it was through the first 4 games of the season as compared to last year. And we even had a game this year go less than 2 hours. So pitch clock seems to be working. And I want to get your thoughts. If you're watching this live, you're listening to the podcast, whichever, get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the pitch clock and the new rules so far? Do you enjoy it or do you dislike it? You can tweet at me at Evan Witt Sports. You can comment as well if you're watching it live. Let me know what your thoughts are on the pitch clock and how that's looking right now for Major League Baseball. So, and then WrestleMania. WrestleMania happens last Saturday and Sunday. Then we get the Raw after WrestleMania, and I want to get your thoughts on that. I'm going to give my thoughts and my opinions on WrestleMania in general, and why I'm kind of a little uneasy now for the direction that WWE is going to go in now. But let's start with the Milwaukee Brewers, 5-1, one of the hottest teams in baseball through the first week of the season. After Game One, as I mentioned, it didn't look like it looked like a lot of the same from last year with the Brewers. As I mentioned, leading into the show, couldn't get runners over and from scoring position, and they seem to lack being able to get a big hit and emotion and whatnot. And the Brewers now sit at 5-1 and tied with the Braves for best record in the NL. Uh, Winner of 5 in a row, and the Brewers are doing it through the young guys. They are doing it with the young guys. Garrett Mitchell has been great so far, coming up with the walk-off home run. Joey Weimer caught up Saturday after Luis Urias gets hurt in opening day with a hamstring injury. Joey Weimer gets that call up. Joey Weimer has been a great asset so far, both at the plate and in right and center field. Bryce Terang, they traded their second baseman Colton Wong from the last couple years, traded him to Seattle. Why? Because they felt confident and comfortable that Bryce Terang could handle that second base position, and he has been just outstanding thus far. Defense with the bat in his hand, stealing bases. The Brewers, up until this season so far, the Brewers have typically been a station-to-station team where they don't really get aggressive on the base pass and they just kind of wait and they're station-to-station. Since the elimination of the shift, the pitch clock, the bigger bases, the Brewers are very aggressive on these base paths. And when you have Weimer, Terang, and Mitchell who can fly, mix that in with Anderson, who has just been outstanding thus far for Milwaukee, a great find. Matt Arnold deserves a ton of credit for picking him up. Great player a few years back, had some injuries, and he's looking like a great player once again. Starting pitching, aside from Corbin Burns, has been outstanding. The bullpen has done its job as well. And I am very happy with what I've seen this season thus far with the Brewers. And yes, I know, I understand the baseball is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I always talk about don't get too high on the highs, don't get too low on the lows. Just enjoy the season as a whole. But I do know this, as of right now, when Luis Urias is healthy enough to play baseball again for the Brewers, I don't know where he plays. I really don't know. Because you brought Weimer up when you put him on the IL, and Weimer's been an outstanding person in the outfield. Terang has done a great job thus far at second. Anderson has done a great job at third base. The Brewers defensively are very good, and I made the call 2 years ago. Yeah, 2021. I made the prediction that the Brewers were going to the Brewers were going to throw a no-hitter at some point in the 2021 season. Watching this Brewer defense so far, I think they're going to throw a no-hitter once again this year. Last year, I thought it was going to be Corbin Burns. This year, I think it's going to be Woody. I think Woodworth is going to get a no-hitter this season for the Brewers. I think he's going to have a game where he just completely dominates, and the defense stands firm. And Winker has been a great addition. I like the Winker addition. They moved on from Hunter Renfroe, and then Winker comes in, and don't really know what we're going to get from Winker because of injuries. And to me, it was a better move. Renfroe is a great power hitter for Milwaukee, but he struggled with those guys in scoring position, those clutch situations. But Winker has shown that he can get base hits in big situations, and he's more consistent with the bat in his hand. Yes, Renfroe is a better defender than Winker is at this stage of his career, but Winker to me is the better player. And I'm happy to see the team that the Brewers have. And I know a week from now, this can all change and the Brewers can lose 5 in a row. And now we're sitting at 5-5 and wondering what is going wrong with the Milwaukee Brewers. But right now, enjoy it. I think it's great. Now, there are a couple concerns early on for the Milwaukee Brewers. One, I'm not really that concerned about long term. I think he will get it together eventually, and that's Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns has been hit pretty good thus far this season. He's not looking like the Cy Young candidate pitcher that we all expect him to be. And it is a little concerning early on, but I think he's has a 9.64 ERA through 2 starts, 6 strikeouts, a 1.71 WHIP, and has thrown 9.1 innings in 2 starts. He has walked 5, given up 10 earned runs, 11 hits, and that's in 2 games. He gave up 6 against the Mets, 4 against the Cubs. Again, I'm not overly concerned yet about Corbin Burns. I think he figures it out. I think maybe he's a pitcher that usually takes his time throwing the ball. Maybe he's still struggling with the pitch clock a little bit, getting that under control. His cutter's just not there yet, but he will be having a run very soon, maybe as recent as his next start, where he is just dominating throwing the baseball. So the other issue I have is Christian Yelich. I don't know. So it's easy. It was been easy to blame the knee. He has, the knee injury hasn't been the same since, yada yada yada. But through this season thus far, he has 23 at bats, has 5 hits, 11 strikeouts, and 23 at bats. He's walked 5 times. He's batting .217 with a .357 on base and a .261 slugging percentage. Yelich is not playing well. He's not seeing the ball well. He's not swinging the bat well. He is struggling very much right now. And it's very worrisome because is he going to be 2020 bad? Where he went 205, 356, and 430 and 788. Is that where he's going to be? Or is he going to be able to turn it around and be right around where he was last year? I think the 2018, 2019 Yelich is gone for good. I think that was just a flash in the pan. I think that was just an abnormality for his career. I don't think the kneecap honestly had anything to do with his struggles as of late. Because if you look at Yelich prior to that year, he's 4 home runs, 9 home runs, 7 home runs, 21 home runs, 18 home runs. And then he jumps up to 36 and 44. And then he's at 12, 9, 14. So home runs are right around where he was early in his career. He's typically been about a 280 hitter, guy who can draw walks. 88 walks last year, 80 in 2017, 72 in 2016, 70 in 2014, 80 in 2019, 70 in 2021, 46 in 2020. So yeah, he can definitely draw walks. He just doesn't have the bat, and I don't think I don't think it's the kneecap. I don't think the kneecap has anything to do with what we're seeing with Christian Yelich at this particular moment. And we're never going to see the MVP Christian Yelich ever again. Now, hopefully, we can get productivity like we did last year with him batting out of that one spot. But the thing is, stop batting him third in the lineup. There's no reason at all to ever play Yelich in the 3-hole again this season. Play him at the 1. He draws a lot of walks. He gets on base. He can steal bases using his speed. Take advantage of that. When you're batting him in the 3-hole, you're expecting him to drive in runs. And guess what? He's not that player anymore. So, moving on, the time clock, the pitch clock, I guess I'll call it. I think through yesterday or the day before, there have been 10 pitch clock violations, which is an automatic ball, or if you're a batter and you violate it, it's an automatic strike. But through 4 games in 2022, the average game time was 3 hours and 8 minutes. And the final average of the year is 3 hours and 4 minutes. Through the first 4 games, through this past Sunday, we're at 2 hours and 38 minutes for the average pace of game. 30 minutes have pretty much been cut out of games. And the big thing is, the reason why they have the pitch clock and all that is they want to eliminate all this dead time where guys are just standing around not doing anything. Pitchers are adjusting their pitching, their hat, their glove. The batters are adjusting their batting gloves and stepping out after every other pitch and having to readjust and things like that. That bogs down the game quite a bit, as we've seen, where we've eliminated all that extra time for guys to touch up on themselves and their hats and all that. We've eliminated that. It's shaved 30 minutes off the game. That's quick. Now, I haven't been to a game yet this year, and I'd love to know. And I should have asked. Buddy of mine was at opening day, and I forgot to ask him his thoughts on the pitch clock being in attendance at the game. But I kind of wonder what the thought is for those that are at the game. What what are your thoughts if you're at the game? What are your thoughts with the way the pitch clock has been? Because watching on TV, it's been much quicker, much faster pace. Games are getting done. There was a game that got done in 1 hour and 57 minutes the other day between Miami and Minnesota. So, what are your thoughts if you're in attendance? Do you mind the shorter time during a game? Because I know part of the experience at the ballpark is being able to wander around the park and things like that in between innings before first pitch, things like that. But I'm guessing with the pitcher, the quicker pace, it's probably harder to do that. So, at Evan Witt Sports, find me at Evan Witt Sports and let me know your thoughts so far on the pitch clock for the 2000 2023 Milwaukee base of the Major League Baseball season. Moving on to the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks clinched the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. In fact, the best record in the NBA. A week ago, they get completely annihilated and embarrassed by the Boston Celtics. And then the very next game, they completely annihilate and embarrass the Philadelphia 76ers. And without Giannis, Middleton leaving early, without Grayson Allen, without Pat Connaughton, the Bucks are able to clinch that 1 seed by beating the Chicago Bulls after the Celtics lost to Philadelphia the prior night. And the number 1 seed in the East now goes through Milwaukee. Number 1 seed in the NBA goes through Milwaukee. And of course, they beat the Wizards too. Throw that in there as well. But here's what I like about the Bucks having the 1 seed. And yes, I know the Bucks won the championship as a 3 seed. Everybody knows that. We don't need to remind me. Yes, I'm well aware of that. But the thing I like about the Bucks having the 1 seed is in the first round, you're going to get the winner of the 7-8 matchup for the NBA play-in, whoever that is. Then in the second round, you're going to get the winner of the Cavaliers and the Knicks. And no disrespect to the Cavaliers or the Knicks. I don't mean any disrespect to the Cavaliers or the Knicks at all. But the Cavaliers and the Knicks, I don't think are quite ready for prime time when it comes to the NBA playoffs. I don't think they have them dogs. They're younger teams still getting their footing going. And I think they're going to be, there'll be a tough matchup, but I like Milwaukee's chances in that second round. And then you're not going to see Philly or Boston, whoever gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, from that 1-2 match or the 2-3 matchup. You're not going to see them to the Eastern Conference Finals, and who knows what those teams look like, whoever gets there. Or maybe one of them gets knocked out early on. If the Bucks were that 2 or 3 seed again, if the 3 seed, they're playing that 6 seed, which let me pull up the NBA standings really quick. So right now, if the Bucks were the 3 seed, the 6 seed would be the Brooklyn Nets, who are not as good as they were, but they're still a tough team. They play tough basketball. They're going to give everything they have for the 4 to 5 or 6 games you're going to play them. Then you're going to get likely the loser of the 7-8 game playing the winner of the 9-10 game. So the Heat or the Hawks, you're going to get the Heat, Hawks, Raptors, or Bulls as a 2 seed. And then the next round, you're playing the 2 seed or the 3 seed more than likely. So for Milwaukee to get to the NBA Finals in the East, if they were a 2 or 3, they're going to have to beat Boston or New York. And then they're going to have to beat, Boston or Philly. Then they're going to have to beat Boston or Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals to get to the NBA Finals. Those are tough matchups. The one nice thing that the Bucks didn't have to do in 2021 when they won the NBA championship is they did not have to worry about playing Philly because they got knocked out early by Atlanta. So after you got done with the 7-game neck and neck series against the Brooklyn Nets, you go play Atlanta. If you would have had to play Philly, who knows what happens? You're going to probably play a game 7 in Philadelphia, and who knows what happens there. But it matched up perfect for the Bucks in 2021 to get to the NBA championship based off the matchups they had. And if you're that 1 seed, you're going to have the better matchups to get there as well. But I'm excited. The MVP race, I don't really care about. I'm just annoyed about all the narratives people are throwing out there. It's like Giannis doesn't exist when it comes to the MVP. Joel Embiid, according to Mike Greenberg, is going to get his vote because he doesn't have one yet. And the way he acted last year after he didn't get it, he's going to vote for Joel Embiid. It seems like it's Jokic or Embiid only. Giannis has no chance to win it, and I honestly don't think Giannis is going to win another MVP, unfortunately, in his career. The NBA voters and the media, they seem to always move on year to year. It was Westbrook, it was Harden, then it was Giannis, then now it's Jokic, and then it's going to be Embiid, then it's going to be John Morant. I just think they keep moving down and down and down the line, giving who, I think it's predetermined who they want to vote for before the season even starts. And if that player has an MVP-like season, they're going to get the award no matter what anybody else does during the season. Because to me, Giannis should have been a three-peat winner. When Jokic won it his first year, Giannis was even better than his MVP seasons prior to that. He was even better, in my opinion. But he didn't get any consideration because he just won the past 2. And we can't have a 3-peat champion because Larry Bird's the last one to do that. And heaven forbid somebody does what only Larry Bird has done or the last person to do it. So, but I'm excited for the playoffs. Bucks 2 games left. Friday night, tomorrow night. It doesn't look like they're playing anybody. We'll see how they play with Toronto. But it's interesting to see what rotations and minute deviations and whatnot the Bucks play with in the NBA Eastern Conference playoffs. So moving on, Wrestlemania, the biggest wrestling pay-per-view of them all in LA, in Hollywood. Wrestlemania goes Hollywood. It's now a 2-night event, which I don't mind. I think I like it a little better than the one night where you take about 8 to 9 hours of wrestling, it seemed like, because you have so many matches jam-packed into one card. The pre-show starts at like 4. The main event doesn't start till almost 11 Central Time. And next thing you know, the event isn't over till after midnight. And it's a long show for especially those in attendance. So overall, I like the event. I like the matches overall. I think the 2 worst matches of the weekend was your Austin Theory and John Cena, mainly because how predictable it was, and then Trish Stratus, Lita, and Becky Lynch defeating Damage Control. I think that was probably one of the worst matches of the weekend, and mainly because Trish Stratus and Lita. They're past their prime. They're middle 40s, slow in the ring, doesn't look like they have anything left. They had no business being in that ring Saturday night with Becky Lynch, Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Leo Sky, especially Lita. Lita looked slow. She looked extremely slow and like she was unable to perform some of her most basic moves that she used to do. But I think the men's WrestleMania showcase, the Fatal 4-Way Tag match, was probably one of the best matches of that night. Rhea Ripley and Flair, definitely one of the top matches of the night. And the tag match, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and beating the Usos. Great outcome of that match. It was just great fun to watch. And Pat McAfee defeated The Miz. That's 3 minutes and 40 seconds that was completely wasted that you could have put into the the WrestleMania showcase match because he only gave them 8 minutes and 30 seconds to work with. And that's 8 minutes. That could have been an additional 340 there. So now you're in the 11-minute range. And I think you were asking those teams to do too much in such a short amount of time. Mysterio and Dominic turned out to be a good match, I feel. And I think they did the right thing with Mysterio winning. If Mysterio was retiring and they had Dominic lose to Mysterio, then I would have been a little bit more mad about it. But I think they did the right thing by having Mysterio, Rey Mysterio, win that match. Night 2 of WrestleMania was quite exciting as well. Aside from Brock Lesnar and Omos, outside of that, great show. The women's tag team showcase, what I feel was a pretty good match, except it kind of ended kind of abruptly. They only gave them about 8 minutes to work with again. Again, you're putting 4 tag teams in the ring with each other, and you're giving them 8 minutes to work. Gunther defeating Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, that got 16 minutes. I think that should have got more time, personally. That match was just probably the match of the night. Bianca defeating Asuka, another great match. I wish they would treat Asuka better than they do. And then you had kind of take a break, go to concessions, get some more beer segment of Snoop Dogg defeating The Miz. It's supposed to be Shane McMahon and The Miz. Shane McMahon tore his quad, and then Snoop Dogg had to run in and save the day because of that. Edge, Finn Balor, the Demon, I think was a great match. I honestly think Finn Balor personally should have won, but I get why they had Edge win. It was Edge's time to complete that story. So, of course, they have Edge get over there. And then Reigns defeating Cody Rhodes with help from Solo Sikoa. It was a great match. 34 and a half minute match. It was fun to watch. It was a good match. Predictable finish, unfortunately. I feel Hunter Triple H, who was the head of creative, I feel he is a little too, I don't know if scared is the right word, but I think he's a little too scared to pull that trigger with Roman Reigns losing the belt. Because it's been a great storyline, the bloodline and all that. It's been a great storyline. And once you pull that trigger, you can't unpull it. Once the toothpaste has come out of the tube, there's no putting the toothpaste back in. Once you take the belt off for Roman Reigns, there's no going back. And I think that worries him a little bit. I think Cody was the right person. I think Cody should have got over. It should have been his moment at the grandest stage of them all. Do something his dad unfortunately never did, because Vince McMahon, when his dad was a wrestler, treated Dusty Rhodes like garbage. But I think they should have taken the belt off for Roman Reigns personally. And unfortunately, Raw the next night, things are going to get very bad, I feel, because now it looks like Vince McMahon is truly back in charge of creative, and Vince McMahon is going to do what Vince McMahon wants to do. The show looked chaotic. It made no sense. Only 33 minutes of wrestling the entire night. Brock Lesnar is a heel again. It was just a bad, ugly night of Raw, and we'll see what SmackDown looks like. So those are my thoughts. And then Aaron Rodgers is still a Green Bay Packer as of today. Nothing has changed. I'll get more NFL talk and NFL draft talk in next week. Talk some Lamar Jackson and NFL draft wants and needs and all that. With that said, have a great rest of your night. Have a great weekend, and happy Easter to those who celebrate. I'll get back at you next week.